And now for something totally different. I usually don't cover models and modeling in this channel. I do. I have modeling as a major part of my life, actually. But a lot of other channels do it better than I do. However, I might as well cover this because I haven't seen everybody cover this one thing I'm doing. One of the most popular modeling companies out there now is Bandai from Japan. And they're known for making their Gundam line. They do make a lot of different models, but they have been doing something rather strange and unique recently. They released 2 experimental kits, and I do think they're experiments. And they're trying out a new material. That's why I'm making this video. Bandai is thinking about going from just making plastics to introducing a new material. This is the kit. This is the Bandai Tyrannosaurus skeleton, and it's composed of a material called LIMEX. I looked up LIMEX, so I'm fully educated on the topic. It is made from limestone, and it's supposed to be a replacement for light plastic and paper type materials. It can be rolled out really thin, or it can be, made into model style parts. LIMEX has different properties than plastic does. I want to bring out some, parts, and we're going to go through essentially making this kit. I'm going to edit the heck out of this, so you're going to see a lot of quick cuts because, I hate to say it, I'll be making the kit, and I don't want to show you an hour worth of constructing the kit. Sorry. But anyway, the new material is new. I have never worked with LIMEX before. Most of you haven't either. This is 2022, by the way, just in case that changes in the future. Or this may be a trend. Who knows? But they're trying. They're trying to make a new material and seeing how it works. And so I'm going to open up this Bandai kit. I'm going to make this dinosaur skeleton and see how this turns out. Anyway, I have technically already unboxed it. It comes with the 2 cellophane straps that hold it down. Take off one first, then the other. You have to figure out which one's on top. And then it comes with typical Bandai instructions. Bandai instructions kind of look like this. It's actually a very simple to make kit, so this is not going to be too long, although I'm going to be going through all the nuances and details. And it has a bunch of information on the inside for you to read about the dinosaur that you've just selected, be it the Triceratops model, which is the model I didn't purchase, or the T-Rex model, the model I did. They have the newest theories on dinosaurs down here, that dinosaurs became birds. I'm okay with that. It's new, different, and unique, but it also makes sense. The fun thing about this kit is that it's brand new, so let's see where this goes into. It comes with a base. I'm probably not going to use this base. I might fit it into the base. I'm actually thinking if I do use this so it doesn't get destroyed today, I'll use a different base. And this is just a fun thing, I guess. Hey, it's a thing. So there's this. And then let me take this out of the box so you can see it. Oh, stuff is falling off. Okay. Here's the actual sprue. You have this, which is the skeletal rib cage undercarriage. This is part of the rib cage, which fell off. And this is a leg bone that has fallen off. Where does this go? Over here. So it'll look like this when you get it. Got some blank space here, but who cares? I guess they could put alternate parts here if they really wanted to. Yay. Why this is a second runner, I don't know. This is really just, it could just be one runner kit. So it's going to be a simple kit. It's probably going to be about that big when it's done. The tail looks like it stretches out a little bit, but it'll be, it'll be like to scale with a lot of the other stuff I have. Who knows? This could see gaming usage. Anyway, this is the actual sprue. But to look at it and to take it apart is going to require me to, bring out some hobby tools and get to work on it. So this is LIMEX. It has kind of an actual soapy feel to it. I'm going to compare this against the Bandai standard plastics. I have a hard time finding white Bandai plastic in my collection. I think this is about as close as I get. So this is a light gray. It's attached to someone's rifle part. And I have something that I spray painted. Is this a standard spray paint? It doesn't scrape off, so it's probably a Tamiya. Probably a Tamiya tan that I spray painted this in. So Tamiya is also always the best paint to start spray painting Gundam parts with, or Bandai plastic with. Don't know about LIMEX. I'm going to be kind of scared to experiment with this. I will prime up a little part and see how that turns out. Probably this sprue. I'll prime it out and see how well it handles primer. I have this, because you can see the Gundam plastic gets stupidly colorful. And it's also relatively flexible, but it does break after a certain point. You can break the Bandai plastic. Although, really, the seams on the runners and the seams, are kind of designed to just come apart, but you're supposed to cut them. Like this is technically a damaged piece, although that could be filed down, trust me. You notice the part stays bent, so it has that plastic thing where you bent it, now it's kind of bent, broken in that direction. Oh, see it is. So the Bandai, they're being more famously Bandai plastic like. This one, I found a tough spot. See, I curved it all the way around. That's how Bandai plastic behaves. So, and it's also, it feels semi-rigid, but it's not. You could feel like, I don't need to use this. I have tons of these laying around. I'm not going to use this part. You could take this and try to bend it, and it breaks under duress of force, but it's not universal. Like for some reason, this little part came off. Then this little part in the rear, I'm putting force behind it. Now I'm getting it to tear. You can see it tearing there. This is tough stuff. I have bent this maneuvering vane to the point where it's sideways. This part came off immediately. This part is resilient. So there are weak spots in the Bandai plastic frames, but for the most part, Bandai plastic is really tough stuff. I even bent it back, and barring the fact there's discoloration there, had it not been, okay, so it's not completely, yeah, I can see it. Okay, so it's kind of ruined. But Bandai plastic is not something you can just, tear apart easily. So I was wondering about that because this LIMEX stuff has a cautionary statement inside of the instructions. This is more brittle than the plastic. So I'm going to test that here in just a few seconds. Yeah, you're supposed to clip off the Bandai plastics carefully and not break them off like I did. I'll be doing the Bandai clipper technique with this. I'm not going to break it because I got that warning in the instructions saying that this LIMEX is more brittle. Therefore, I'm not going to screw with it. I'm going to treat it like it's respectful. Although I didn't show any respect to this kit here. This is just a show comparatively. We see it on camera. This is how tough Bandai plastic is. We got the LIMEX here. I think there's a little bit of a fracture on this one piece. We had two pieces that fell out. That's okay. That happens sometimes with Gundam kits and plastic kits in general anyway. This thing, it looks like there's a little bit of fracture here. So I'm wondering. So I'm going to cut this out. What is the... Okay, this is actually... I must also comment, it looks like the connecting pieces on this kit are very rudimentary. They're almost toy-like. It's got... I mean, look at this connecting piece right here. It looks like it's just a big loop you stick a post through. I'm pretty sure that's exactly how it's going to assemble. I have this LIMEX sprue. Let me put this sprue aside to the corner. So I have this LIMEX sprue. Let's test the durability of LIMEX, which I'm pretty sure isn't going to happen. You got this part broke here. It feels kind of chalky. I can kind of just grab it and tear it like there. I can just... It doesn't bend to that. It doesn't bend into the semicircle like plastic from Bandai does. Oh, we got to do it. We got to do it there. So there's a strong point, but out of all those points, we have one strong point there. Then again, it broke right there. Does it broke there? Okay, so we have a point where this little section here, for some reason, is not yielding. This entire long section, yeah. If I can use my nail to pretty much... Actually, can I cut through it with my nails? Oh my god, I can! My nails will cut through this. I can guarantee you nails are a pretty poor cutting tool against Bandai plastic. You know what? You want to test that in a second? Let's see. Okay, so let's to be fair, this is some Bandai plastic. I'm going to try my nails on one of the sprues. Just pick a spot and go to town. God, no. The outer surface of Bandai plastic is hard. So just trying this right here, all I'm doing is rubbing my nail against the outside surface of the plastic. That's all I'm doing here. It's going nowhere. Compare that to LIMEX, where I can grab it, pick... let's pick like a corner junction where it's supposed to have more structure, right? So I'm going after the corner junction. Oh, look at this. I'm literally sawing through it with my nails. Yeah, it's taking some time because I picked the corner junction, so it's got some strength to it. But look at that. I made a divot in there. It's literally, you can see the divot. See that divot? That divot that I made, it is pretty nasty. I could probably continue and go through the entire, yep, there it is. Entire sprue. Yeah. So LIMEX is definitely fragile. It has a certain fragility to it. It's closer to, it's like flexible pottery. Oh, look, I found another strong one. Oh, well, okay, so this section here was strong. This section and this section was not. So I think it's plausible that LIMEX could be made tougher in the future, but this first generation LIMEX you can literally just destroy with your hands. Oh look, I even tore through the corner where it had that like supporting piece. So yeah, I made a mess here out of this LIMEX. And this part here, that's the strong part, the nameplate, woo, just tearing through it. I can twist it in a circle and even pull off the weak part and have this left behind, and then unturn this and then turn it backwards, and it breaks when you turn it 180 degrees. So LIMEX has some durability to it. We've seen that it has parts where it's stronger and it stays together, but look at this. This is not super durable stuff. So thin, narrow LIMEX is going to be somewhat disposable in nature. Like throwaway paper plates, basic. You could probably make something that's a very basic disposable item out of LIMEX and save yourself some plastic. I'd be okay with that. Of course, you could probably also eat it. I'm not going to eat this, but you could probably also, if you have a LIMEX spoon, your teeth will go right through it. So don't champ down too hard and don't give it to the kids. So we've seen how generally tough LIMEX is. We know it has a soapy consistency. It's not quite the same as plastic. And it probably has more in common, actually, with some paper products, weirdly. And it's just because it has that very soft, matte surface with a little bit of soapiness to it. Yeah, I would call this a satin surface, actually, but it does feel matte. When you touch it, it feels matte. Although visually, it has some shine to it, so there's a little bit of satin to it. I'm going to get my tools out, and I'm going to start cutting this up so you guys can see this thing come together. So here's my trash is all hell board for modeling, and my tool of choice I call this my standard X-Acto knife. It's not exactly full running and sharp, but I use it for most work. And then I have a dull X-Acto knife, literally taped to the end of a. This can be used for various different purposes, but a dull X-Acto knife blade is actually a very useful tool. Then I have a sharp X-Acto knife. This will cut me easily. And this is just for when I need to use very sharp, precise cuts. I also brought a standard pin file. I'm probably also going to supplement this with some sandpaper, but I'm thinking the file will be more precise. There'll be very specific areas I want to file, and so this will do good for that. It's supposed to be a snap-together kit, so I'm going to test fit it quite a bit. But I do have the cyanoacrylate glue, the super glue that comes in the bottle. These bottles that come in the multicolored silver-backed labels, this is the best brand to get. They're usually available at hobby stores. Find this brand and use it. It's just good stuff. But in case, I usually buy the thicker stuff if you only want runny stuff for some reason. This is some, whoa, very runny super glue that can be used in case you need to get inside of something and super glue inside of an area. This runny stuff will do it. So I'm going to put that aside up there so it doesn't screw with me. Okay, time to start knocking this shit out. So we got one leg bone. Looks like a sea creature of some kind, but it's part of the rib cage. The rib cage isn't even like, doesn't have any like transparency to it. It's just literally a bunch of ridges. It's a solid piece. The fact that it's a solid piece, I'm going to talk about that later because I have a hunch about LIMEX and how it would work in the modeling world. So there's that. Everything else is still on the, I have my not God hands. These are literally basic clippers, but they'll work because the idea here is just to get stuff off the sprue. So I'm going to go with the other leg bone. And the other chest piece. What? Those came off very easy. There was nothing hard about that whatsoever. I'm actually going to keep my instructions open over here. It wants me to start on the head for some reason. But I've got these falling off, and there's no interruption of part with the rib cages, so I'm going to go after the spine. Here's the secret to the instructions. You can follow them in order if you're absolutely not sure how the kit goes together, but sometimes you can look and see, okay, this is a subassembly, this is a subassembly. I don't have to do these in order. I can do all the subassemblies first and then go with other stuff. So there is a mold line that runs down the center of this rib cage, and it is just a mold line. How does the mold line handle scraping? It looks like it just kind of... You know, I'm going to swap out my dull thing for the next sharpest one up. Okay, that's the way to do it. You have to use a sharper knife to kind of cut / abrade the mold line. This is a mold line on the bottom of the spine though, so it doesn't really matter too much. This is the part where it's underneath the rib cage, so this is the part we need to clean, yeah. I'll be honest with you, if there's a mold line underneath another part, I don't care about that mold line. That mold line doesn't matter to me. But if the mold line is going to be somewhere where everybody can see it, then you might as well clean the mold line. My philosophy is get rid of the bad mold lines. Some of the other mold lines are small, or they're in a dumb place that no one's going to look. So this is all the pins. And of course, I'll just add the top of it. Kind of smooth it down. So yeah, there's a bit of a mold thing on the end of the ball here. I'm not too concerned about that. I will snap at it though because I'm wondering how tight these fit. I noticed there's a bit of there's a little bit of toothiness on this side and not on that side, but I'm wondering if that's how it's supposed to fit together. Worst comes to worst, I can always just glue it and say, oh, I screwed up, time to just use glue. So snap fit, that's the thing, snap fit models can be fixed with super glue or modeling glue. Oh look, it's no longer snapping together. Clear away the BS where the mistake happened, with a knife usually, and then you just go use glue and make sure the alignment's fine. So there's the spine. The spine supposedly takes mold line on the rear of the rib cage there. There's a mold line on the front, yeah. Mold lines often come in pairs. If there's one on one side, flip it over and check the other side for the mold line. If the other side is not part of something visual, you can ignore it. If the mold line is, let's say you're going to be looking at the front and the back, yeah, handle that mold line. By the way, this LIMEX material does not handle being scraped very well. It turns into something much rougher and madder. In fact, probably want to go through the smoother surface and slightly, abrase it out. See how that works? Yeah, you got to be careful with mold lines in LIMEX. It turns out weird. So, this one has the same stuff. Not too bad. Yeah, oh yeah, I see it. I see it from a different angle now. So, this thing snaps together first, right? Which direction does it go? Actually, that's it. The little sternum thing there goes in front. So, it snaps together. Wow, a rib cage. Where's that? Next subassembly. This thing. I'm going to check this for any kind of mold line issues. There's a thing sitting there on the... Yeah, there's a bit of a stub on this stub, and there's a little bit of... so where it disconnects, it's a little bit rough. It does kind of smooth up because it's more fragile and delicate. The thumbnail can just kind of smooth it down, really. Just want to see if a thumbnail works on all of these. Partially. You'll really need a tool. Give me a second. So it's supposed to connect in here somehow. Looks kind of cool. Wow. So where's A12 and A3? A12 and A3. It really does not feel like snippers are needed to take these off. They just kind of fall off if you put some pressure on it and you squeeze. They kind of just fall off. I'm not worried here. I could break this by accident and ruin the model. It's going to be a bit delicate. Okay. I need to connect that way. So it goes like a this. Wow. And then the other side it goes like the same thing. Wow. And so you've got this thing in the center where you can drop the dude. Has to squeeze in there and connect that way. It's not really connecting. Okay, now it's connecting. Yeah, okay. So we now have this alien hybrid. Wahaha. There's a mold line right there, but that's underneath the whatever that is going to become. Probably the neck part to the Tyrannosaur. So I have now a rib cage. I have a rib cage. The instructions say the next spot after you do the rib cage is to put the hip sections on. Poink. Yeah, this just kind of plops off. What happens if I just decide to pull it off? Can I use my... I'm probably going to use my nails to do it, right? Dink. Yeah, my nails will do fine. But what does it look like visually? Is it still in good condition? Okay, so the separation points are more pronounced. I can, of course, take a knife and go through and clean it off. Yeah, if the burr is small enough, you can just use your thumb to go over it and be like, gently clean it off. Yeah, this LIMEX stuff actually will yield to a fingernail. Just keep that in mind. Your fingernails become a tool when you're working with LIMEX. Oh, I see what's happening here. And then that goes there. So the bones actually connect. I don't think that's a real bone, though. I think it's a part that's used for the kit. And this goes on the other side. And it wedges together down here and makes the thing whole. So this is how you get the thorax of the T-Rex. So look, I pressed on the rib cage, the hip section up here, and it popped up when I had done down here. So I now have to go and choose. It's like I can disassemble all this and reassemble it. So this is a problem. Do I want to glue it there? But if I glue it there, I might as well glue it everywhere else, especially amongst the rib cages. I'm going to glue the bastard. So this is somewhat glued together. I gave it somewhat leniency. I realized some parts didn't need to be glued together because the fit was really good. So that way there is some leeway, but the hips are secure. Notice the hips were the things knocking open. I made sure these things were glued in place. And everything else is, there's a glue here and glue amongst the rib cage, so there shouldn't be too much leeway there. It's a solid part now. Now the instructions kind of want to make us make the head first. So I guess we'll make the freaking head of the T-Rex here. By the way, in the future, letting you know that LIMEX models, if they get made in the futures, may actually need... I'm going to do this just to show you. They may actually need... This feels really easy, but maybe that's the point. I could easily snap this thing into pieces where their pieces aren't usable anymore. So you got to just be careful and make sure that the model doesn't have a part that you snap off accidentally. So, that looks really familiar. That's parts of the dinosaur head. So these, I'm going to get cleaned up a little first. This is mostly internal stuff, so I don't see this being needed to be cleaned. This is the all-important job on the one. It has a mold line right down the jaw. They say test fit first and glue later. Yeah, I agree. This thing is so brand new, I could easily ruin it. I have no clue how this fits together. Okay, so there's that looks like it could use some putty there. Maybe it's a glue point. Nope, it's not. Putty maybe, but not a glue point. I don't think the Tyrannosaurus skull has a cut there, but maybe it does, so I'll shut up and go with it. Okay, so this does fit together. Okay, so it does fit, and I'll need to have pressure on the rear. So the rear is where I put pressure on it. I'm trying to be careful with this because I know I can break it. So I should probably put glue on this side. Let's see how this turns out. And the other side. Line it up and press in the rear. I probably could actually use some putty along that nose line. It could just press together with glue. We'll see. That's where the runny stuff comes in. It'll just go in there. And once the runny stuff goes inside, you just kind of make sure you don't put your fingers over it. Fingernails will work, I guess. Those will also cut the material. Well, my reflexive skills aren't so helpful when making LIMEX kits. Otherwise, I'll be accidentally cutting various different parts. Bottom part. I'm only about the jaw can just flap on there. La 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 la. I can fucking talk! We have a skull, which does not attach directly. That would look silly. So we need to find the neck for this thing. I feel that using the hobby knife to cut these off is actually a bit of an overkill. I should look at the instructions, man, shouldn't I? No, it looks about right. And then, oh no, so it does have some playroom. Let me guess. Yeah. Rawr. Okay, this ball joint down here is useless. I'm going to have to make that ball joint permanent. So, here it goes, dudes. Wow, it just sucks up glue, so be careful. Put it on the edge instead. Otherwise, there's going to be glue soaking all through it. And then I need to figure out a final pose this thing's going to be stuck in forever. This is actually a really tight fit up here, so I might actually want to give the head some leeway. The forearms are kind of a joke. We can do that easily. So yeah, physically speaking, the small arms of the T-Rex can reach its mouth. It can grab something and push it forward, and then the mouth can play with it. These pieces are larger and bulkier, so I guess they handle that better. Oh, there's mold lines. Crap. Like big honking mold lines. I'll use my fingers to kill off the break points here. The sharper X-Acto knife does feel better at cutting away this LIMEX, but it's just a feeling. I don't know if it's doing something weird there. When you deal with castings all the time, you'll see mold lines. Doesn't matter what kind of casting. Automotive casting, model casting, dental castings, they all have mold lines. I guess that's that. That's that. And then I find the opposite foot. I got legs! The legs are fully mobile. Yes, I like that. Because the way it's set up, it's just an opposite pin and an opposite pin with an opposite pin. You can probably test fit them and then glue them by having a glue that seeps down in there. So that fast glue will probably do better for these. Let's go ahead and what an abomination this could be. Give me a second here. We're doing it. We're going to go full abomination. We now have a fully bipedal, somewhat humanoid dinosaur. Yes. His arms are terrified and he's short, but don't let that worry you. He can still get his job done. He's got one hell of a pot belly from this sticking all the way out. This is definitely the boss T-Rex. You can tell by the pot belly and his confident smile. All joking aside. The T-Rex is now missing just one item, so he's pretty much there. He's a great size. Yeah, he could be used as a game figure. If you want an undead T-Rex, you can do that. So, man, I've got dust everywhere. Working with LIMEX, working with the plastic, if you want to do mold lines off the Bandai plastic, that often creates dust too. Bandai plastic tends to be really cool on the mold lines. This is the one that really worries me, actually, because look at that tail connector there. It's just a loop, and you put a post through the loop. It is visually non-striking. That was probably an experiment done with this because this, you know, yeah, it just folds right in half. Probably just one big experiment from Bandai to see if this material even works. Pops together. It really should go there, so let me pop it together in a way that makes it permanent. It doesn't visually bend well. It looks kind of awkward when it bends. So there's that. The entire tail. How does super glue work on this LIMEX? Nice enough, I guess. It just does its job. It actually kind of grips it really well, from what I can feel. But I can now take this over here. I see it just kind of snaps in. Wow, that's loose. That is so loose. Yeah, you don't want to just snap it in. This tail has to be glued in. T-Rex. nice and gluey. I don't know which section is really going to connect, so I'm going to get all of them glued up and come in from the side and then just let it dry like that. I guess I'm supposed to take this. Wow. Now this base is actually something I think is going to be the future of LIMEX models. The thicker parts actually feel better. I would not make a spindly skeleton model out of LIMEX, but it's what they did. It's stone, right? Stone, bone, you know, it kind of works together, I guess. So we got this LIMEX base here. And I can probably just take the T-Rex, knock it into. Sorry, Mr. Arm, 1 second. And we have the T-Rex model. Roar. Come on, roar, dude. Roar. He's shy, he doesn't want to roar. If I put your hand in your mouth, you'll open, right? Now he's angry at me. Roar. Roar. So this is the T-Rex LIMEX model from Bandai. As you can see, it's a very simple build. And I didn't see any real problem sticking this thing together. You can choose your pose, essentially. There's not much to work with since it's T-Rex and the body's not very posable. I recommend gluing that in. I recommend gluing that in because those flop around too much. They're very loose. The head is tight fit, so the head can be played with. But yeah, I think it's a good model. It's not actually, compared to a lot of toy dinosaurs out there, it's actually very freaking accurate and very freaking good. My recommendation actually is to glue the thing. Pick a pose you like and keep it glued. Otherwise, this may happen. See, the pins fell out of the legs while I was moving around. So now I have a separated T-Rex with legs. So glue is actually a good thing. The real flexibility is in the legs. So, go on. Yeah, that feels better. Yeah, so let's add that to the list of things to do. If you're going to make this model, glue the joint pins into the top of the thigh bone. Glue the tail in, and I glued the neck in. And you've got to choose your pose and just go with it. The T-Rex model is actually very nice for what it is. And though there are more accurate models out there, this one looks really good for the price you pay. And it's about the same size also as gaming figures. So I'm going to take it off this base, put it on a gaming base, and I'll probably dress it up so that, you know, it's something cool. I'll put like maybe a saddle on it and put skeleton riders on it. That'd be really cool. And I got to say about working with LIMEX, it's not a bad substance to work with. I did treat this carefully, so I didn't roughhouse it. And you shouldn't roughhouse your model kits anyway. So LIMEX is just fine for replacing petroleum-based plastic as far as that's concerned. I do feel that LIMEX would probably be better not for thin spindly kits like skeletons, but you could use LIMEX for like tanks and, you know, Gundams really. Things that have more blockiness and chunk into them. It would probably work really well for military models. It would actually work amazingly well for buildings. Building models made of LIMEX would be freaking great. I can't say that enough. Buildings and tanks would make great model choices for LIMEX. I would say ships, but ships have a lot of spindly small parts. Aircraft maybe, but aircraft have antenna and stuff like that. So I'm willing to bet this may break in the near future, but if so, I'll put a video up about it saying, hey, it took this long to break the LIMEX T-Rex. And I may just put another video up showing you the fully finished product where it's fully painted and stuff. Now, it's supposed to be primed if you want to paint it. Given how I'm feeling the LIMEX and how the LIMEX feels, I would say it would need a very light dusting, and you have to let it dry for a lot longer than necessary, like give it a full 24-hour primer dry, and then the primer would pretty much be ready to work with. I would say that would be how to do this. Otherwise, you're going to rub it off. This stuff feels like it can rub something right off. So you got to have that primer to make it work. LIMEX is water resistant, by the way. So that's another thing to keep in mind. You can't just throw acrylic paints on top of it. You got to prime the sucker first. So I would give it a decent light dusting and then a second decent light dusting. Make sure you hit it from all angles. Otherwise, the angle you touch is not going to take paint. This is the LIMEX T-Rex from Bandai. He's ready to go eat your Triceratops and whatever else he can get his hands on. jaws on, whatever else. He's dead anyway, so it's going to just be a massacre as opposed to dinner. So thanks for watching the video, and hopefully you have a great rest of the day. So I did a quick number where I primed half the base just to show the differences. This base feels really well primed. I let it dry for like an hour. I let it dry for about an hour, and I realized this is actually, this is on there pretty well. It's a good way to put it on there. Basic matte coat, like Krylon primer is what I used. Here it is. I'm putting my fingernail against it. Now on some of the high points it did scrape a little there, but I'm willing to bet, okay, so after 1 hour I'm getting minor scrapage when I run my finger across it. I'm willing to bet using the back half of this would just take it off. Yeah, I can scrape there against like the shadowy stuff where it's not fully primed, and the primer actually stays on. So basic matte primer is actually a good medium for this. Yes. How does the back of this do? Yeah. What can I say? Metal will scrape away. It's probably scraping away tons of LIMEX too. But yeah, so there's primer works. That's nice. That's actually very nice. Bare spray paint may not work unless it's one of those combo paint primers. I'm honestly thinking it needs very little, but just the first shot of primer. Maybe a heavier coat might be good, but I would say 2 or 3 light coats would be better. And honestly, you could probably get away if you were using something that was more like its own paint primer combination. A light spray of primer, and then you cover it with a full coat of the paint primer combination. That may do just fine.